Holloway here.
And Kesha Holloway.
And we're back with another relationship Q&A. You know, we welcome you to Kingdom Relationships, which is our ministry.
Yep.
And we want to answer questions for you. And we've been answering questions that we received from a singles event that we spoke at recently. And one of the questions we talked to you about last week and this week, our question is, what if sex doesn't affect you emotionally? Is there something wrong with that? What if sex doesn't affect you emotionally? Is there something wrong with that? Two ways to answer that question. For men, sex doesn't really affect us emotionally. It affects us more spiritually than it does emotionally, because ladies, a man can have sex with you and not even be involved emotionally and leave you and go and have sex with someone else, leave her and go have sex with someone else. But what happens is it builds up over time. Spiritually, it affects us more spiritually because we are connecting with the people that we're having sex with, and our spirit is connected with them. Because when you have sex with someone, you're becoming one with them.
Right.
That's why sex is designed for marriage, because you become one, as the two become one when you have sex, because sex is consummating the marriage. So for men, when we have sex with different women, we're becoming one with them spiritually, so it affects us spiritually. It may not affect us mostly, because a lot of women may wonder why it doesn't bother him, you know, why he's not falling in love, or why he's not affected by the sex. But it's because we're not mentally affected by it. We're spiritually affected by it. So it affects us over time and internally. You know, so
it's interesting that the person asks, what if sex doesn't affect you emotionally? So I actually want to speak to that person, because if you're the person who's saying, hey, I'm not affected emotionally by sex, you may agree with me in saying that I believe you're deceiving yourself.
Most definitely.
Because Nate says, while men are more spiritually, I think over time, as you said, having sex with multiple partners causes problems with you emotionally. It's an emotional buildup.
Yes. So
then sometimes, ladies, you get in relationships with men and they've been hurt by several different women, and they bring those issues into the relationship. They can still have sex with you and not be emotionally connected with you, but then they're dealing with all this other stuff, and so they're flip-flopping all over the place, and you're trying to figure out what's wrong with them. They're on 1 minute with you, they're off the next minute with you, they're on the next minute with you, and you don't know what in the world is going on. Well, it's all that build up, all those spirits that they've connected themselves to before you.
Yes, because really, that's how men become players. Because once you get that adrenaline rush from having sex with multiple women, and then what happens is spiritually the enemy has got you, man.
Yes. And
what he does is he puts that desire in you, and that yearning for another one. You're yearning for another one. Then you get that next one. You're yearning for another one. You get that next one. You're yearning for another one. And then there's no consequences, because a lot of women, ladies, you're letting them do that.
Exactly.
So when you let them do that, as a man, I'm gonna be honest and transparent. You know, I was that guy. So before I got married, and my wife, I've told her, I was that guy. And when you allow us to do that, when women were allowing me to do the things I was doing to them, I was like, wow, are they really letting me do this? Well, let's keep it going. And so that's what happens. But then later, years later, after the build-up, I had a breakdown. A spiritual breakdown where I just finished having sex with this young lady, and after we finished and she left, I broke down and started crying, and I said, Lord, I don't want this anymore. You know, I want to be with the one you designed for me to be with. And so that's what happens. But ladies, if you say it doesn't affect you emotionally, you're in denial. Because it does. Women are emotional with sex. I don't care how hard you are, how much of a women player you think you are, how much you think you can just have any man you want and it not affect you. It does.
It does.
Because it affects you, because it affects you spiritually, one, because you're becoming one, and then it affects you emotionally, because if you're real with yourself and you're real with everybody else, you're thinking about that guy. And then especially if you really like that guy. And then he doesn't call you, you're wondering why he ain't call you. And I'm going to be real with you, thinking, man, I put it on him, and he ain't calling me. What's the deal? You know, and so it's affecting you emotionally. So to answer that question, it does affect you emotionally, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and if you don't think it affects you, we want you to get real with yourself. We want you to get real with yourself and seek the Father, because you could be walking around here thinking, oh, I'm good, there's nothing wrong with me. But even in that, you're puffing yourself up. You're becoming prideful in what you're doing. So the Christian life is about renewing your mind daily, hourly, by minute. We have to constantly renew our mind. And that is renewing our mind as we think about our actions and how we develop ourselves and our character. We constantly have to go back to the Father and say, okay, God, it's me again. Here's a checkup. I need you to let me know how can I get things back in order that's out of order in my life. So it's all coming back to being real with yourself, going before God and say, God, it's me. I'm back again. I have this thing, or maybe I don't have this thing. I need you to reveal to me what's going on that's pulling me away from you. Because if you are connecting with someone sexually, you are disconnecting from the Father.
That's right. You're disconnected from the Father, especially if you're not married.
Right.
You know, because sex is worship with married couples. So to answer your question, that what if you're not affected emotionally by sex? Is there something wrong with that? Honestly, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Because somewhere you're in denial because it's not affecting you, because it should affect you in some way. If you're doing it right, it's going to affect you in some way. And if you're doing it wrong, it's going to affect you in some way. So if it doesn't affect you, like my wife said, seek God and find out what it is that you're not realizing, that how it's affecting you, and be honest and real with yourself, because it's something that you're not being honest with yourself about that is affecting you. So
I have one thing to say. I have a personal testimony about that. Nate and I, he told you he was a player. Neither one of us were virgins when we got married. No. But personally, for me, when Nate and I got married, we hadn't had sex in a long time. So when we got married and we consummated the marriage and we got back home from the honeymoon, and we had to go on our separate lives again. I had to go back to work. He had to go back to work. We had to do other stuff. But then we came off a week of always being around each other to going back into our normal lives. And I asked one of my mentors at church, and I said, hey, every time he leaves, I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? I'm feeling like, oh, I want him here with me. What's going on? She was like, Kesha, you're having sex. And I said, oh my God, it was like the light bulb went off. I had joined myself with him, and it was like, it's okay to feel that way now. It's okay to long for your husband. It's okay to have those emotions, because those are the emotions that God designed for you to have inside the marriage covenant. And it's not perverted. It's nothing that I should be ashamed of or feel any type of way about, but pure love for my husband. And it's the love that God created for us to have, or for me to have towards him, because we are married, because he was the one that God's designed for me.
Yeah, I do love you, girl.
I love you too.
Yeah. So just know, guys, that if it's not affecting you emotionally, it's affecting you emotionally, and you need to seek God. Seek God, pray, and if you want to ask more questions, and know more about this topic, email us personally at krelationships@gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Just follow us. We're going to have a question of the week every week for you guys. We're going to have different videos, and we're going to come back with some more topics for you next week. So stay tuned. Stay with the movement. Join the community. Check out our website at kingdomrelationships.net. We love you.
Love you,
guys.
God
bless you. And we can't wait to get with you again.
Live victorious.
All right. Be victorious.